The ocean at 2:14 in the morning is not the ocean from the postcards. It's just black, enormous and black and completely indifferent to whatever you brought to its edge. I'm standing on the balcony of a hotel room in Key West with my bare feet on warm concrete and my phone face up on the railing, and I have been looking at that screen for 2.5 hours without moving. The message is from my cousin, Carlos. He sent it at 11:47 p.m., silver Camry in the driveway, bedroom light, curtains closed. You good? I have not replied. I have not moved. I can hear Emma behind me through the glass door. She's been asleep for 3 hours. One arm hooked around the stuffed flamingo we bought at a gas station outside of Homestead because she spotted it through the window, and the sound she made left me no choice. I planned this vacation in January, 8 months. I'm a logistics dispatcher. I plan things. I track where things are supposed to be and whether they're actually there. I am, professionally speaking, a man who notices when a shipment has been rerouted. The ocean is still beautiful. I want you to know that. I'm standing here with this thing building in my chest like a pressure system, and the ocean is still beautiful. And that is somehow the worst part of the whole night. I pick up the phone, I put it down, I go inside and sit on the edge of Emma's bed in the dark and watch her breathe. She had told me with complete confidence that pelicans are basically dinosaurs. She said it at dinner over a basket of shrimp, the way you'd say something so obvious it barely needed saying. I'd told her she wasn't entirely wrong, which made her stop chewing and look at me like I'd just handed her the keys to something. I sit there for a while, then I go back to the balcony and I start building something. Not yet a plan, more like a frame. The kind you put up before you pour anything. 3 weeks earlier, I'd been talking up this trip for months. Key West, just the three of us. A week of nothing but water and sunscreen and Emma demanding to feed every bird within arm's reach. Nicole had seemed excited. She'd looked at the hotel photos on my laptop. She'd asked about the pool. She'd told her mother about it. Genuine excitement, or what I filed as genuine excitement, which I am now understanding is not the same thing. 2 days before we were supposed to leave, she came into the kitchen while I was packing the cooler and said she couldn't come. Work. A commercial loan restructuring. Her manager had specifically requested her, she said. It was terrible timing. She knew that. She was sorry. But go. Take Emma. You two will have more fun without me slowing you down. She smiled when she said it, sad smile, the kind that's supposed to make you feel like comforting her. I watched her and I noticed, and I mean I noticed even then, the way you notice a door that doesn't quite sit flush, that she didn't fight for it. She'd been talking about this trip for months, and now she was handing it back to me with both hands and not grabbing for it once. I didn't say anything. I finished packing the cooler. The drive down was about as good as a drive can be. Emma sat in the back with her window cracked despite the rain, and we played the license plate game until she got bored, and then she made me listen to the same 4 songs on repeat for 90 miles, and I let her because she sang along to all of them with her eyes closed like she was performing at something. Key West delivered. It always does if you let it. We watched the sunset at Mallory Square with about 400 other people, and Emma decided the jugglers were boring, but the man who put his head in a bucket of water was important. We ate at a place with picnic tables outside, and she tried key lime pie for the first time, thought about it, and then said weird but good, which is a perfect review. Every night I sent Nicole a video. Emma saying something funny, the water at sunset, a stray cat that had adopted our hotel entrance. Nicole sent back hearts. She wrote, "I miss you both so much." I believed her. The third night I called her at 10. She didn't pick up. I waited and called again. She answered on the fourth ring, a little breathless, and said she'd been in the shower. "Shower," I said. "Yeah, long day. Tell me about yours." And I did. I sat on this same balcony and told her about Emma and the pelicans and the pie, and Nicole laughed in all the right places, and I went to bed fine. But something had shifted. Not a thought, not even a suspicion, just a change in air pressure, the kind your ears register before your brain does. The next afternoon, I called Diane, Nicole's mother, 61, widowed, one of those women who fills a house up just by being in it. She's watched Emma more times than I can count, and she's fed me enough Cuban food over 14 years that she has permanent rights to call me Mijo without me flinching. I called just to check in. She'd been by the house to water the plants. "Everything looks good," she said. "I washed 2 glasses I found in the kitchen. I figured Lauren must have had a friend over." Lauren, that's what Diane calls Nicole sometimes, her middle name, a family thing. I said, "Sure, probably," and I kept talking, kept the call going, kept my voice level. But in the back of my head, something had just clicked into place like a manifest where the numbers finally match up, except in the wrong direction. Nicole doesn't drink alone, barely drinks at all, a glass of wine at dinner on special occasions. Nothing on a Tuesday. 2 glasses means 2 people. 2 people means she chose company she didn't feel the need to mention. I took Emma to build sandcastles after that. We were at it for 2 hours. I held the bucket. She directed the architecture. I made walls where she told me to make walls. She was completely absorbed. I smiled every time she looked at me. I was completely absent. That night I called Carlos. Carlos Reyes is my cousin and my closest friend, and a man who asks no questions and requires no explanations. I told him what I'd put together, and he went quiet for a moment and then said, "You want me to drive by? Just let me know what you see." Done? I didn't sleep after Carlos's text. I sat with my laptop and I worked the problem the way I work every other problem, which is to say, methodically and without drama. I knew Nicole's department at the bank. I knew the names she mentioned, her manager, a few people she ate lunch with. I'd heard her talk about a joint project a few months back, something about commercial lending initiatives across branches. I started pulling on that thread. Kyle Bennett, loan officer, different branch of the same bank, same project. I found a group photo in a newsletter Nicole had forwarded me months ago, one of those great teamwork emails she'd sent with the note, "Look, I'm in a picture." Kyle was in it, standing close. I found his LinkedIn. Married, 2 kids, lots of photos of him on a boat. Not his own boat, I'd bet, just a boat he found himself near, looking like a man who considers himself to be doing very well. I felt, and I'm trying to be precise here, I felt recognition, not rage, not yet. Recognition the way you feel it when a delivery that's 3 days late finally shows up at a location you didn't authorize. You're not surprised, you're just reading the routing history and seeing exactly where it went wrong. I took a screenshot, I closed the laptop, I went and sat on the edge of Emma's bed and watched her sleep with that flamingo tucked under her arm, and I made myself a single promise. I would not come home early. I would not call Nicole. I would give her no reason to get defensive, because defensive people cover tracks, and I needed those tracks exactly where they were. 3 more days. I could do 3 more days. Those 3 days. They were, and I mean this, some of the best days I've ever spent with my daughter. We took a boat tour, and she wore a life jacket that made her look like an orange traffic cone, and she didn't care at all. She fed a pelican a piece of hot dog bun, and I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but I didn't stop her. We watched a street performer eat fire, and she grabbed my hand and didn't let go for 20 minutes after. Every photo I sent Nicole was deliberate, normal, happy. I was laying down a paper trail of normalcy the way you lay down a route that keeps your cargo undisturbed. She had no idea anything had changed. That was the point. On the second of those 3 days, I found a bench outside a tiki bar where Emma had a snow cone about 20 feet away, close enough that I could see her, far enough that she couldn't hear me. I called Frank Ochoa. Frank is my attorney. He's 52, built like a filing cabinet, and he communicates exclusively in declarative sentences. I'd never needed a divorce lawyer before, but a guy at work had used him and said Frank would tell you exactly what you were looking at and not waste your time with maybe. Frank picked up on the second ring. I told him briefly, in the flat voice you use when you're describing a situation rather than living in it, what I knew. Florida's no fault, he said immediately. Adultery doesn't change the property split, but it factors in when you're talking about custody, a judge's read on character and stability. You document everything. Witnesses are gold. You don't tip her off. Understood. Anything else? I paused. Emma had gotten some of the snow cone on her shirt and was examining the stain with great scientific interest. Hypothetical if she were pregnant. Silence on Frank's end. A different kind of silence than before. Why are you asking that hypothetically? Because I found something in the trash before we left. Prenatal vitamins still in the box. And under the box, a lab slip, Quest Diagnostics. It had a date on it and a gestational note. 8 weeks. I paused. I told myself it was mine to celebrate. I can't keep telling myself that. Frank was quiet for a few seconds. Not the silence of a man who doesn't know what to say. The silence of a man deciding which true thing to say first. Get a paternity test written into the petition, court-ordered. That changes the entire picture. I watched Emma look up from her shirt, notice a dog walking by, and immediately lose all interest in the stain. Right, I said. Thanks, Frank. Sunday, I came home. The house was clean. I mean clean, the kind of clean that requires effort, that you do when you've been doing something the house needs to not remember. Our house is normally lived in clean, Emma clean, the kind of clean where you might find a crayon under the couch and a sippy cup on the bookshelf. This was different. Nicole hugged me at the door. She smelled like our laundry detergent, same as always, the lavender one she switched us to 3 years ago, but there was something else under it, something scrubbed at. And I noticed the way you notice a cargo seal that's been reaffixed. She was warm. She was attentive. She asked about the trip with a level of detail that was about 4 questions too specific. Not the questions of someone who missed the trip, but the questions of someone who had prepared them. I answered everyone. I laughed at the right moments. I told her about Emma and the pelicans. That night we sat on the couch and watched something neither of us had the plot of anymore, and I was completely, perfectly normal. 2 days of that, which is, in case you're wondering, 2 days longer than I should have been capable of. On Wednesday, I called Diane. I took her to a Cuban place on the west side that I've been going to since I was 23. Corner booth, strong coffee, the kind of food that costs nothing and makes you feel like you've been somewhere. I chose it on purpose. This was going to be a hard conversation, and I wanted to have it somewhere that felt like mine. Diane showed up in a yellow blouse and earrings, and she hugged me at the door and said, "You're too thin, mijo." I wasn't, but I let it go. We ordered. I let her talk for a few minutes, about her neighbor's new dog, about a show she was watching, about Emma's birthday coming up. Then I put my coffee cup down and told her all of it. The glasses she'd washed, Carlos's text, Kyle Bennett's LinkedIn profile, the prenatal vitamins, Tom Wade, who I was going to hire, Frank Ochoa, who I'd already called. I laid it out the way you'd lay out a case file, flat on the table, one piece next to the other. Diane sat very still while I talked. She's one of those women who gets quieter as things get heavier, not louder. By the time I finished, the food had arrived and neither of us had touched it. She said, "Oh, Adrian," then she cried. Not a lot, not dramatically, just the quiet kind that comes out when something you've been hoping wasn't true gets confirmed. When she collected herself, she told me, 3 months ago, she'd seen Nicole and a man at a restaurant. Nice place downtown, not somewhere you go for a work lunch. She'd thought it looked like a work lunch. She'd told herself it looked like a work lunch. She'd driven home and fed the lie a couple more times until it sat right. I told myself I was being paranoid, she said. I'm 61 years old, and I sat in my car and told myself I was being paranoid. I didn't say anything. She looked at her hands for a moment. My husband cheated on me for 12 years, she said. I found out at year 4. She said it matter-of-factly, like she was reading off a mileage number. I stayed for Nicole, for the money, for what people would think. I washed dishes and swallowed it, and it cost me most of the person I was. She looked up. I washed those glasses, Adrian, and I told myself it was nothing. I won't do that again, not for anyone. I'm not asking you to, I said. I know. That's why I'm telling you. She pulled a napkin and started folding it, the way she does when she's thinking. Then she told me the last piece. 2 weeks before, Nicole had asked her to watch Emma for a Saturday. Said she and a girlfriend were going to the beach. Diane had watched Emma all afternoon. She'd never thought to ask which girlfriend. I took out my phone and wrote down the date. I hired Tom Wade on a Thursday morning. His office is in a strip mall between a nail salon and an insurance broker, which I always think is appropriate. A man who professionally confirms what people are afraid of, surrounded by people who prettify things and people who prepare for damage. Tom is 52, former sheriff's deputy, looks like a man who's been rained on a lot and doesn't particularly mind. He shook my hand and told me his rate and said the words, "I need 11 days," like a contractor quoting a job, which is, I suppose, exactly what he was. He gave me a call at day 11. The Saturday Diane had watched Emma, confirmed. Nicole was at a hotel in Ponte Vedra, not any beach. Tom had timestamps and photos of vehicles and check-in records triangulated against Nicole's stated whereabouts. She'd been there 4 hours. She and Kyle had met at that same hotel twice in 10 days. Then Tom mentioned, almost like an afterthought, that Kyle Bennett was not a man who'd done this for the first time. 4 years back, at his previous job, a woman had filed an HR complaint. Tom had found it through public records. A pattern, not an incident. I sat with that for a moment. Then Tom said, I should mention, someone else came to me about Bennett recently. Woman, different case. I can't give you her name, obviously, but I figured you'd want to know the field wasn't empty. I said, his wife. Tom looked at me with the particular expression of a man who cannot confirm or deny something and is therefore already confirming it. I'll be in touch, I said. 4 days later, my phone rang from a number I didn't have saved. My name is Rachel Bennett, she said. I think we both know why I'm calling. We met at a coffee shop in Mandarin the next morning. 2 people who had never met sitting across a table with their hands wrapped around coffee cups. Both of them past the part where you wonder if you're overreacting. Rachel is 37, brown hair, quiet in a way that reads as deliberate rather than shy. She talked the way people talk when they've been thinking about what to say for a long time and have decided to just say it. Before I could ask the obvious question, she answered it. She'd found Nicole's name in Kyle's email 3 months ago, deleted folder, not deleted carefully enough. From Nicole's name, she'd found her LinkedIn in about 45 seconds. From Nicole's LinkedIn, she'd found that Nicole Cruz was married to an Adrian Cruz. Logistics, Jacksonville. From there, it was a phone number and a decision about whether to use it. "I'm sorry for calling out of the blue," she said in a tone that made clear she wasn't particularly sorry. She had her own PI, same PI, as it turned out. Tom had apparently been running 2 parallel investigations like a man with a full schedule and no moral ambiguity about it. She had photos, hotel receipts, a timeline that overlapped mine at several points. She hadn't called to commiserate. She'd been very clear about that on the phone, and she stayed clear about it in person. She wanted to coordinate. What she had that I didn't. Kyle had applied for a transfer to Nicole's branch 8 weeks ago. Nicole had recommended him internally. HR had the paper trail. They were building something, Rachel said. She didn't say it with fury. She said it the way you say something you've made peace with. Not just meeting at hotels. He was going to move branches, be in the same building, do whatever it is men like him do next. She sipped her coffee. He did this before, not with her, someone else. I stayed because I thought I owed it to the kids. I don't owe him anything. We left separately, didn't hug, didn't exchange some big, meaningful moment. We were 2 people who had just compared notes on a shared problem and were going to handle their respective portions of it. Her filing came 2 weeks before mine. Frank prepared the petition on a Monday. Contested divorce, primary custody of Emma, court-ordered paternity testing for the child Nicole was carrying, Diane listed as a witness, Tom's surveillance logged as exhibits. I chose the day carefully. Nicole's schedule was regular. She left for work at 8. She was home by 5:30. I arranged for the process server to arrive at 5:45. Emma was at preschool until 6. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee when the knock came. Nicole opened the door. She read the first page of the petition standing in the doorway. I watched her shoulders do the thing they do when her mind is catching up to something her body already understood. She turned around and looked at me. "Adrian, I know about Kyle," I said. "I know about the Pontevedra Hotel. I know about the transfer request. I know about the vitamins in the trash." The kitchen was very quiet. The refrigerator hummed. "How long?" "Key West." She went pale, which is when she understood that she'd been the last person in the situation to understand the situation. She said some things after that. Some of them were angry. Some were desperate. And one of them, she said she'd been about to tell me everything I didn't bother addressing. You don't tell someone after they've already been served. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it the way you glance at something you're trying not to look at. Her face changed. The desperation recalibrated into something I hadn't seen before, something raw. She looked up at me. I didn't ask. I found out later Kyle had texted her that he was reconciling with his wife, that he was sorry, that it needed to stop. He folded completely, right on cue, right at the worst possible moment for her, left her holding everything alone. I picked up my coffee cup, and I walked to the sink, and I washed it, and I said, "Emma gets picked up at 6. I'll be back before that." And I left the house. Here's what I'll spare you: the months of legal procedure, the depositions, the scheduling, the back and forth of people in suits establishing the contours of a life that has come apart. What you need to know is that Kyle Bennett, facing the simultaneous collapse of his marriage and an internal HR investigation triggered by the transfer scheme, did what men who've been getting away with things for years do when they finally stop getting away with them. He contracted. He went small. He told his own attorney he'd been led on. He stopped returning Nicole's calls. He denied any intention of a shared future. 2 careers at that bank are gone. Nicole was on administrative leave before the divorce was final. Kyle resigned ahead of being dismissed. In court, Diane testified, she sat in that witness box in the same yellow earrings she wore to lunch with me, and she told the truth. It cost her something visible. She wept at one point, briefly, her hands flat on the railing, but she did not flinch once. Tom's documentation went in as evidence, clean, time-stamped, unambiguous. The paternity test came back with Kyle Bennett's name on it. Kyle Bennett, who was by then unreachable, was eventually located and pulled into a separate family court action for child support. Frank argued what needed to be argued: ongoing relationship with an absent co-parent, administrative leave, documented pattern of deception, and the judge read the room the way judges read rooms. I got primary custody of Emma. Nicole got scheduled visitation, supervised at first, with the understanding that she'd earn more time as she demonstrated stability. The house went to me, my family's down payment, documented, and Nicole took her share of the savings and moved into an apartment across town. In late autumn, she had a boy. Kyle was on the birth certificate and nowhere else. 6 months after everything was finalized, I'm at Emma's school for pickup, which means I'm early, because I'm always early. I'm at the fence watching the front doors, and when they open and the kids come flooding out, she spots me before I spot her. She's running. She has an art project in one hand, a painted flamingo ceramic, gloriously terrible, googly eyes. She attached crooked wings. She didn't quite line up right. She holds it up before she even reaches me. "It's for the house," she says. I crouch down and look at it with the full attention it deserves. "It's perfect," I say. She nods like I've confirmed her own assessment. Carlos is watching her next weekend because I'm going to a birthday dinner for a guy I work with. There's a woman who's going to be there. Friend of a colleague, I've met her once. She made me laugh twice in about 20 minutes, which is a high rate. I haven't called it anything, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to the dinner. Diane calls every Sunday. She came to Emma's birthday party last month and brought a cake that could have served 40 people for a party of 12, and nobody complained. Nicole came for 2 hours, gave Emma a present, a flamingo puzzle because she knows her daughter, and left. I walked her to the door. We were civil. Not warm. Civil. There's a real difference between those two things, and it took me some time to stop confusing them. That night, I put Emma to bed with the new painted flamingo next to the stuffed one from Key West. The Key West one is missing an eye now and one wing, bent funny somewhere around the third wash cycle. She loves it completely, the way kids love something that has been through things with them. I turned off the light. Last thing, and then I'm done. Kyle Bennett is in Atlanta now. Fresh start, apparently. His LinkedIn has been scrubbed clean, which is the digital equivalent of fleeing a crime scene. Rachel sold the house and bought a smaller one up in Fernandina Beach. She texted me once a few weeks back, just, "Emma sounds wonderful. Take care of yourselves." I texted back a thumbs up and a flamingo emoji. She sent back a laughing face. That was the whole conversation. That was enough. Nicole's steadier now. New job at a credit union, therapy on Tuesdays, learning to manage 2 kids at 2 different houses and the particular kind of work that requires. I don't hate her anymore. I know that sounds like a line, but it isn't. Hate is a fuel hog, and I've got a daughter to raise and a life to run. I just don't have the bandwidth for it. Emma still sleeps with the Key West flamingo. She's washed it 11 times by my count, and it has never once stopped being her favorite thing in the world. That's the whole story.